everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of GamerVision. We are now in the 30s with this show, but I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and we have Tony from Procedurally Generated with us. How are
Howdy,
you doing,
howdy,
Tony?
everybody. It is a wonderful day. I am looking forward to this episode because we're looking forward to the rest of the year. Again, I think we've
Yes.
done this already
Yeah,
once, but
there just so many games, just so many games, and
yeah,
I feel like that's like the recurring thing throughout most of the episodes this year is just like we just
there's
can't
a
keep
lot of
up with
stuff.
them all.
There's a lot of stuff to play.
Um, Obviously, we've had that really weird, really random. I don't really like. Sony was just like, "Oh, God of War Ragnarok comes out this date. See ya, everybody." Like,
Oh yeah, that was just I expected more from a
yeah,
God of War Ragnarok, even if it's just a release date thing, more than like a 30-second trailer being like, "Hey, you know what? Here's when you can play it."
yeah, like they're. I don't know. Just some. I don't know. It was very much like a loss for words for me. I was just like, this is possibly your biggest franchise, maybe your second biggest franchise. I don't really know. I can't remember how it stacks up like The Last of Us, but like there's not a state of play. You didn't really like hype up anybody for it. You just here's the release date. Oh, we got these collector's editions coming, and Kratos.
Yeah,
So
and then Nintendo's like, "Hey, you're supposed to copy us."
yeah, like
But we're gonna copy you, and they just tossed out information about Bayonetta just out of the blue.
yeah, they're like, oh, people have been asking about this for a little while. We were actually going to film on Tuesday,
Yeah,
and the topic for this episode is our upcoming games that we don't really know much about. Bayonetta 3 was going to be part of that, and then just with how things went, we held off until today, which is Thursday, the 14th, for anybody out there, time stamping things. Um, so we would have talked about the fact that we knew really nothing about Bayonetta 3, and then the following day, Nintendo would have been like, ha, those suckers.
those idiots.
So yeah, yesterday, all kinds of like Bayonetta 3 stuff, and Sony with their God of War Ragnarok, just throwing that out there like a week ago.
you know,
Um,
the stuff that Nintendo's been doing the last couple of days makes me feel like maybe they had a direct that they had planned, and then they've now just broken it up into some smaller
yeah,
announcements. Because we got Bayonetta, we got the Kirby announcement of a
yeah.
new Kirby game, which is basically Kirby with Fall Guys, but it's only 4 players. Which
Well,
looks fun. Like it looks interesting. It's probably going to be like $20. That seems to be the sort of price range for those Kirby side game sort of things.
yeah. Well, and maybe it's because Nintendo really like they maybe it's like a last minute thing as well because they saw, well, okay, the Summer Games Fest, that's not going to really have a whole lot of stuff there, and what would be E3, like all these other companies, like there really isn't a whole lot of excitement going on around that stuff, so we'll just kind of separate ourselves from that just a little bit and then just trickle out information. um, but we are over halfway done with 2022. Obviously, God of War Ragnarok is coming out. We got the upcoming Pokemon generation that's going to be kicking off for the Switch in December, I think.
November, I think. I think that's when Pokemon comes out.
I should have. I probably should have did some research on that before. But so we kind of know that the holiday season's starting to wrap up. 2023 is right around the corner, which is just a crazy thing to think that. I mean, I feel like 2022 has been about 2 years in one, just because of how many games have come out. We've had so much stuff to cover, but 2023 is right around the corner. We've got quite a few games that we don't know, and hopefully by the time that this video goes up, no company from any of our lists decide, hey, here is all sorts of information about this game, because then editing is going to be a pain to cut the stuff out.
I'm looking at you, Square Enix. Don't drop any news.
Yeah, it's like just you've held off this long. Just give us just a couple days, just a couple more days to make sure that this video goes out before you start dropping all kinds of news about the Dragon Quests and Final Fantasies and anything
Yeah.
else that may or may not be on our lists. Which, but
Spoilers. They're both
But
on there.
I have a feeling people are probably not too surprised by that. Um, but out of all the games, kind of the requirement or stipulation that I put on myself as far as like what was going to make the list is stuff that we've we know about, but we really don't know a whole lot of information on.
Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, it's like stuff that's might be coming out in 2023, might be coming out in 2024. Um, but my first one, I'm very cautiously optimistic about this because BioWare needs a
They need a
success.
solid release. Yeah,
Yeah.
they need.
They've been striking out for a little while now, and they
Not counting Mass Effect trilogy, which is sort of the one exception to that.
like one thing for me. Like I'm a huge fan of Dragon Age, and Dragon Age Origins and all of its expansions and DLC and stuff were just phenomenal. I loved the characters, loved the world, loved everything that they were doing with it. And then they kind of, I don't really know what happened with the Dragon Age 2 part. That just I don't know. Maybe there's some fans out there that like Dragon Age 2. I was not one of those people. I just anyway, so I feel like they then went back on track with Dragon Age Inquisition. It was a great kind of return to form for Dragon Age, and then it went silent for a long time. And then there was rumors that EA was going to be bringing it back, and they were really excited for it. But then there were a lot of rumors of like microtransactions, and that they were trying to play around with like a games as a service type thing. It's like, no, you're gonna kill it. You're gonna,
Just give us a single player RPG and make it good.
yeah. Like, why do you hate single player games so much, EA? Because when you let your developers actually develop a single player game, people love it and they buy it and they give you money that you don't deserve. Um, but they brought some of the original people back in, and BioWare started to really seem like they were back on the right track. And then Anthem happened, and that was just another slap in the face.
Anthem is the biggest disappointment in the world for me because that game is the stuff that's there is really good. Like
There's
it's got a good solid foundation to it. It just
there's a lot of
fizzled out
potential
at
there.
the end and yeah.
Um, it looks pretty. Traversal is fun, but
Oh,
like
moving around that world is incredibly fun.
but when they announced Dragon Age 4 and they said that this is going to be a single player experience, this isn't going to be tied to any like microtransactions or anything like that. I was like, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then we've gone a little bit of time without really knowing much more about Dragon Age 4, outside the fact that it's coming. And then they showed off a very, very brief trailer. And then like a month ago, they were like, oh, and by the way, here's the name. And that's really all we've gotten so far is just the fact that hey, the four has been dropped for Dreadwolf. Solus is going to be, or Solus, or however you want to pronounce his name. Um, it's going to be a pretty prominent feature for this game. It seems like a pretty good tie back to.
I'm gonna start with the showstopper. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit,
Oh, okay,
as
okay.
everybody knows what my number one would be. Um, I'm gonna go with Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Ooh,
Like
surprising.
I am a Lord of the Rings guy. I read the books every year. I watch those movies pretty much on loop. And I'm not just talking about the Lord of the Rings. I'm talking about all six of them.
Deep
And
dive.
the new trailer for the Lord of the Rings TV show just came out today. That looks really good. Like I'm glad this is that is what they should have shown off first, and not the trailers that we got previously for the Lord of the Rings TV show, because this started to allay a lot of those fears that I had about the show. I'm still like you with Dragon Age. I'm going to remain very cautiously optimistic about Lord of the Rings in Amazon's hands.
Yeah,
Um, but I love being in that world. The Shadow of Mordor games were incredibly fun, except for the ending of the first one. I was a little disappointed by the ending of Shadow of Mordor. Um, but there's not a lot that we know about Gollum, and getting a chance to play as Gollum as sort of the hero of the game is really appealing. I hate the model for him. I think it's just
Yeah.
dog ugly. But
Yeah. I mean, I
but the
get he's
idea
supposed to
of
be ugly, but like just doesn't.
yes, and maybe it's just because I am so very attached to that, Andy Serkis modeled version of
He did such
Gollum
a
that
good job.
anything is just going to look a little weird. But this one just looks ugly. Like it looks ugly for ugly's sake, and not like we
Yeah.
consciously made a character that's not supposed to look good, but
Yeah.
still is like beautiful in its ugliness.
And I feel like maybe we're a little too late on the Sonic backlash
Yeah, we're
effect.
not gonna they're not gonna go back in and redo the model of Gollum at this point. A lot of the other stuff
Yeah.
around it, the environments look really good. Some of the other characters look really good. Um, the idea of getting to sort of like sneak around the Middle Earth is just super
Yeah.
appealing to me, and getting a chance to put yourself in Gollum's shoes and see the events from before those movies from his eyes. So that's very very appealing, and the idea of getting to see some of, like, I don't know exactly when this takes place, but the idea of getting to see, all of the situations where Aragorn and Gandalf are chasing him around trying to catch him, and you being Gollum trying to run away from them and stay, keep yourself from being captured by them or by
Yeah.
Sauron, because Sauron knows you have the ring, and
That evil eye, just that evil glare.
yeah. So I don't know if this is canon. Like the Shadow of Mordor stuff, they talked about it sort of trying to make that a canon version of the story of the forging of the One Ring and stuff like that. So I don't know if this is canon, if this is just sort of them exploring in the world. Um,
Yeah.
we've seen a couple little glimpses of the game, and it looks really good, but we're getting close. I think the game comes out in September, and we still don't know a whole lot about
Yeah.
what to expect.
Going all
Like
in.
it's not going to be the end of the world if this Gollum game ends up being the worst game that I've ever played. Like it's not going to be Fester's Quest for the NES. I know that, which is by far the worst game I have ever played. Um,
Phew,
but if it
well,
ends up being good, I'll be very, pleasantly surprised. But I'm not going to be, you know,
let down if it's
let down if it's just not a good
yeah.
experience. Yeah. So,
with Dragon Age, at least with the release of Dragon Age 2, I've already had my heart broken by the series before, so like I'm like I already I've gotten that bitterness already from that. So like fool me once, shame on
yeah.
you. Fool me twice, well,
Yeah,
probably
but
deserved it.
with the history of the Lord of the Rings games, they've been very hit or miss. Some of them have
Yeah,
been really good. Most of them have been really sort of generic and bad.
yeah.
And then
Usually in
there's
the
a little
hands of
bit
like
in
EA.
between. So,
Yeah.
but that would be my first one, is Lord of the Rings Gollum.
So this might not be a surprise for people, but I like Final Fantasy. I like RPGs and role playing games, if you will. Not the rocket propelled grenades, although those are cool too. Um,
Dude, speaking of rocket propelled grenades, sorry. Did you see the video that was going around yesterday of the real life sized rocket launcher from Halo?
I have not.
I'm going to show you that after the show. That thing is. I want one of those so bad.
Well, um, product placement. Um, but for me, like we've seen a little bit about Final Fantasy 16. There's still, in typical Final Fantasy fashion, there's still so much that we don't know going into the inevitable. I mean, tentatively 2023 release of 16. We know about the main character Clive. We know that he goes through a couple growth spurts, time jumps in the game. They showed off a lot of the stuff with the summons, but they really haven't really said much about what the summons are going to do in correlation to actual like Clive, the main character.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, they play a little bit of a role in what is capable in combat, just based on the little things on. I think you can equip 3 of them. It looked like there's still a lot of speculation as far as just what the summons are going to be able to do in Final Fantasy 16. But like, as far as like how ingrained are they going to be? Because like in Final Fantasy 10, one of the things that I loved the most was that the summons really developed alongside Yuna, the summoner, and being able to see them develop and get stronger as the game went on and learn some new abilities as the game went on was just awesome. I loved
Yeah.
that. And for the most part, they've largely taken that away from the Final Fantasy games. 10-2 didn't have any summoning. 13 was a very weird, like, you could turn into motorcycles and cars and stuff, and that just, I don't like that. And then 15 was very much like you have to stand in a very specific spot, looking in a very specific direction,
Yeah.
doing a very specific thing for this super powerful being to appear and help you out. And I didn't like that either. So I would really like to see what they're going to be doing with 16, how they play the icons in with the
Yeah.
characters, and if what the party size is, what the companions are, where the story goes, like how are they going to handle all that kind of stuff.
Is Sid gonna be a guy or a girl this time?
Yeah, is it going to be is like how many Sids are there going to be? Like, are they just going to Sidception this thing and just have Sid after Sid after Sid just creating all kinds of airships, or like
It's gonna be like the in the Matrix with the
that?
Mr. Anderson
Yeah,
stuff. There's just gonna be Sids everywhere. And so I play all of the Final Fantasies, but I usually don't do them right on launch day, and I get them
gotcha.
6 months or a year after, and then pick them up and play them.
But so what is your number two?
For me, I'm cheating a little bit because it's not a 2022 release. We've seen a little bit about it. It's it's a Nintendo. Breath of the Wild 2.
All
Uh,
right, all right.
like we've seen bits and pieces here. We know there's going to be some ground and some sky, and Zelda's going to be in it.
Yeah,
Spoiler.
yeah.
Uh,
Shocker.
but other than that, we don't really know a ton about what Breath of the Wild 2 is. It just going to be more Breath of the Wild, or are they taking this time because it's been a long time
Yeah,
now,
2017.
7 years
Or,
since the release of the first one. How long's the Switch been out? Not 7 years yet.
I,
5 years?
5 or 6 years. I think it's close because I think it was like what March, because it released alongside the system, right? I think it was
Yes,
like
it was a launch
March
title. It
of
was March of
17.
2017, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 2017.
So
Yeah,
five
it was.
years, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like 2 weeks before it came out, Horizon Zero Dawn came out, and everyone was like, Zero
Yeah.
Dawn is going to be game of the year, and then Breath of the Wild
And
was like,
then Breath of the Wild said, "Ha ha, no."
no. So,
Sorry about that, Sony. But yeah, Breath of the Wild 2. How is that going to be continuing that story from Breath of the Wild
yeah,
1? And I want to see just how the interaction, the interplay between the stuff on the ground, the stuff in the sky is, because they've done a really good job in the past of making the two different sort of areas that you play in, whether it's the light world, the dark world, the past or the future, um, the ocean or not the ocean. They make them all feel
yeah.
very different, but at the same time, you have to be able to master both places in order to really get the most out of your playing of Zelda games.
And I know that there's quite a few people who say that Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring are both very, like, they are the definition of like open world games, and that
Mm,
I know people have spent 300, 400, 500 hours in Breath of the Wild. So kind of also wondering just how massive of a scope are they going to go with as far as like Breath of the Wild 2, like kind of like what he said, is it going to be more of just Breath
yeah,
of the Wild, like same size of world to explore, or are they going to be like, hey, we're going to like double the amount of places you can go and things you can do,
yeah,
which uh, I don't know if I could do another game that's like that, but
yeah.
that's
There are very few games I can put 100 hours into anymore, but
you know,
Breath of the Wild 2 will be one of them. Because I explored just about every inch I could of Hyrule in that first game, and
um,
I was not ready to be done when Breath of the Wild ended.
which is a very different attitude than I had with Elden Ring. because with Elden Ring, I was ready. I was
Yeah.
more than ready to finally be like, I have finished. I'm done. I hate gaming. Um, but
Never want to play this again.
yeah, for my third pick, after I finished with Elden Ring, I started wondering now that I was free to play another game that I could sink some time into. I remembered, oh yeah, I finished Spider-Man Remastered about 8 or so months ago, and I wanted a game to kind of go in between playing Spider-Man and diving into Miles Morales, and I mistakenly chosen Elden Ring for that because 6 ish 5 months later, I'm finally getting to Miles Morales, but then that started getting me thinking, oh yeah, Insomniac is making the Wolverine game, and so with that, I started thinking, I was like, oh yeah, we don't know anything about it. We know it's coming
No.
after Spider-Man 2, but outside of that, we have no idea what they're going to be doing with it. And then I started thinking, I was like, how? Because with the Spider-Man games, Insomniac nailed the web slinging, going around the city, going across the rooftops and stuff. Like you feel like a superhero, you feel like Spider-Man. Um, I don't really know how they're gonna splice the combat in Wolverine together because it's not like he can zip around the
Yeah.
rooftops and swing from like Spider-Man has a fast travel system. I never wanted to do it because I just enjoyed swinging around so much, but I really wonder like I'm excited for Wolverine. I just really wonder what they're going to do to adapt that in game form and it not just be just kind of like an average experience. Um, and I know we've
It's going
probably
to be brutal.
yeah, yeah,
It's going to
yeah,
be they're going to lean heavily into the fact that he has, swords coming out of his
yeah,
hands, and there's
yeah,
going to be lots of dismember. It is going to get that M rating, and it is going to lean very
yeah.
heavily into it, I think.
And you had referenced before we started filming that Spider-Man is very much the evolution of Batman's combat.
Hmm.
Um, so I really want to see like how Insomniac takes that evolution even further because they're probably going to lean a little bit more heavily on like the Batman style because in Spider-Man like you're able to like use the webbing and stuff to really get acrobatic with your combat. Logan's not very acrobatic, so
No, no, he's a big burly uh, man, and
yeah,
his stuff is going to be a lot like Batman's, where movement is going to be not quite as fluid. Batman had a little bit of that, but all of his movements were done with purpose.
yeah,
Um, there was no wasted movement. I'm not saying that Spider-Man's combat had a lot of wasted movement in it, but he's a lot
yeah,
more acrobatic and can move around and use space a lot more
yeah.
in ways that Batman and Wolverine can't. Um,
So yeah, I'm really like that's I outside of Fuse, like Insomniac has done a really good job of like building a reputation of just churning out good game after good game after good game, and I really wonder how they're going to do this with Wolverine. A little bit of a tongue twister there, um, but and of course we don't really know much about Spider-Man 2, so Wolverine
it's
could
true.
very well be. I mean, I'm hoping not too much further out, but possibly a 2025 release, depending on how things are shaping up with Spider-Man 2. Because Insomniac just shipped Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and they redid Spider-Man with the remastered, and then they brought out Miles Morales, and like at some point they gotta sleep, I would imagine. Like there's gotta be somebody who's like, okay, it's break time now. But um, so that kind of wraps up my big three question marks for the upcoming release schedules. Um, what is your third one?
It's Dragon Quest 12. Like,
Ah, okay.
hands down. We know nothing about that game outside of a fiery logo.
It's a good
Um,
logo though.
it's a really good logo. It's very different from any of the Dragon Quest logos of the past. And
Yeah,
they've said this is going to be a very different game from anything that has come before it. which makes me a little bit worried.
That
Because, like I've
cautious
said many
optimism
times,
again.
one of the things that I love about Dragon Quest is that it has stuck so firmly to its, roots from Dragon Quest 1 all
Yeah,
the way back in the
yeah,
80s. Dragon Quest 1 and Dragon Quest 11, or yeah, Dragon Quest 11, um, they're very similar games. Like, you see a lot of that original game in Dragon Quest 11. And it's been that way from the very beginning, and that's one of the things that I just love about it. So, what's the combat going to be like? What is the story going to be like? What is the environment going to be like? We know nothing about this game, and I know it's going to
yeah,
be they're going to go a little more action heavy. They've been trying to do that a little bit with the last few games, where it's not just good guys on one side, bad guys on the other, and then you see some animations between them when they
yeah.
attack. They've tried to get a little cinematic with it and allow you to have some movement inside a battle space, but still kept it to that turn-based sort of system. Um, and I'm expecting this one is going to be a lot more action-heavy. Uh, Maybe get rid of the menu-based stuff altogether, which I'm gonna they're gonna drag me into the future kicking and screaming. Um,
Well,
but
as long like Kingdom Hearts has its place, it has its fandom. I don't want everything to be like Kingdom Hearts though. Like I don't want to just be really flashy, mash one button and just all kinds of crazy things are happening and you're just
yeah,
very, very simple gameplay. So hopefully they don't go that route, and it kind of seems like that's a little bit of the direction that they're going with Final
hmm,
Fantasy. So hopefully Dragon Quest can still hold on to a lot of that traditionalism. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah, I don't expect we'll see anything like with Dragon Quest XI where you get the 3D and the 2D versions of the game. I think that was a one-time thing. I don't think they will go back to that.
yeah. I mean,
I don't think.
I mean, Square Enix seems to really, I don't, I mean, they're really starting to support this like HD 2D thing though, like with the Dragon Quest 3
Yeah, but
remake
I
and
think they're going to get that out of their system with the original trilogy of Dragon Quest, starting with
uh,
Dragon Quest 3, and I really hope they do the full trilogy. Um,
yeah,
because I want to see that is the one bit of Dragon Quest that hasn't been retouched really. I mean, we've got some HD
yeah.
sort of remakes of them with the mobile ports and the version
Technically
of
looks
on
prettier.
Switch. I don't know that it's prettier, but it's more detailed.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah, true.
um, so
But
that original trilogy is due for an upgrade because it's the only part of that series outside of the side games like the Dragon Quest Jokers and the Dragon Quest Monsters and stuff like that that has never gotten that remake or remaster or re-release treatment in any significant way.
well, and I mean, it it seems like hopefully we see some like really creative things that they do because um, Square Enix has such a portfolio of stuff that they can like they've been announcing all kinds of things over the last like the Star Ocean Divine Force and the Valkyrie Elysium and Harvestella and like they've just really they've been kind of resurrecting their older titles in their
Yeah,
portfolio while announcing new things alongside them. So I'm hoping to see just more creative things from them, and that they're just letting their teams just start like have at it, do something, just whatever it is, we'll fund it, just make it
yeah,
happen. So it'd be I would hope that they would continue going back to like the Dragon Quests like 1 and 2 and give it or give them the HD 2D treatment because
yeah.
the 3 remake looks just awesome, just so gorgeous. I love that art style from Octopath
Hmm.
Traveler to Triangle Strategy. Like I just really enjoy that graphical style.
But we've got after this show comes out, episode 177, I
Ooh,
believe, of the PG show. Uh,
getting close to that 200.
Developer of a remake of Sonic Triple Trouble, which was a Game Gear game that he is redoing to make it seem as if it was released for the Genesis. There's a
Okay.
demo available right now on the internet, and I have played through it. That's on the procedurally generated YouTube channel. You can see me play through that 4 level demo, and
I'll
he'll be
have to
on the
check that
show
out.
coming up. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, everybody out there, make sure to post in the comments. Continue providing feedback because it really makes things so much easier when people do the job for us. As far as coming up with topics and just, I mean, suggestion. We just suggestion. We're not, we have our ideas. We do our own things, but um,
Yeah, but if there's something that anybody wants to hear us talk about,
yeah,
we will we'll sneak it in somewhere.
whether it's the games you're looking forward to in 2023 or 2024, 2025, whenever Starfield comes out in 2027, we'll be able to, talk more about those games. And we'll see you with the next episode of GamerVision right here on YouTube. See ya.
Bye, everybody.